Morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday Dharma service. Next month, we can finally see each other in person. Thank you for joining today. In Middle Ages, the women who are giving birth to a baby, many women died in the neighboring process along with the babies. But there was one incident that drastically reduced the infant mortality rate. You know what that is? That was a really simple thing, but saved lots of babies as well as the laboring mother. The midwife, before that they get the baby, washed their hands. In those days, they did not know the existence of germs, bacteria. So then simple act saved lots of people. Think about the discovery of penicillin. That saved the human race. According to the statistic, whether it's a penicillin or other kinds of antibacterial agent, saved over 200,000 American lives annually. Life expectancy was raised from 5 to 10 years. Whether it's penicillin or any kinds of scientific discovery. Think about the life without the internet or electricity or airplane and so on. They really facilitate, not just facilitate, they really saved in many aspects the human life. It is really true. Knowledge is the power, especially the knowledge of science and the technology has become the cornerstone of our civilization. But from time to time, through the mass media, we hear that very highly educated people do some very dishonest thing. They go to jail, etc., from embezzlement, etc. I moved to the States in 2000. A couple of months later, when I turned on the television, I saw 2 airplanes hit the Twin Tower. At first, I thought it was just a movie. After that 9/11, one journalist asked Muslims who's born and living in the United States, how do you think of those suicide bombers? They all said it's a really, really wicked, wrong thing. But what surprised me was most of them believed that those suicide bombers directly go to heaven because of their sacrifice, even though they object to that terrorist act. These days, we have lots of knowledge in science, technology, but the knowledge of wisdom of the ultimate reality, for example, our true self, is really, really limited. When Jesus said, the truth will set you free, that truth, the knowledge is really limited, I think. One day, several monastics, disciples of the Shakyamuni Buddha, argued each other what is the most dreadful thing in the world. So one monastic who practiced in the forest said the most dreadful thing is poisonous snakes. Many monastics, practitioners were bitten by poisonous snakes in the forest in Thailand or Myanmar. Another practitioner said the most dreadful thing is a tiger. They were hurt by tiger. But Buddha said the most dreadful thing in this world is the human ignorance. Particularly the ignorance of our true self, who we really are. That ignorance is the most dreadful thing in this world. Why? That ignorance is the root cause of suffering. Our founding master, Sotaesan, divided two kinds of wisdom or knowledge. One is the knowledge of the outside world. He called that the knowledge of human affairs, scientific or technology knowledge. The second kind of wisdom or knowledge is the knowledge of inner world, our mind or our true self. Sotaesan said that the knowledge of universal principles. He said, if humans in this world, if the knowledge of science, technology is only advanced, just like these days, when the material civilization is highly developed, compared with spiritual culture, then it's like the person who is physically very strong, but mentally ill person. The world where spiritual culture is highly developed, like some old days in China, but the material thing is not advanced. It's like the person whose mind is healthy, but physically sick person. In either case, that person cannot live happy. Material things and spiritual things, both are important. The British historian Toynbee said, the material civilization is developing at the pace of a rabbit, but the spiritual culture, human spiritual mind is advancing at the pace of a turtle. That kind of imbalance, particularly these days, is the cause of suffering. So how can we cultivate our true wisdom, innate wisdom, particular wisdom to realize our true self, which is the foundation of our attaining freedom of mind? Whether it's wisdom or knowledge, it can be attained by studying and cultivating and contemplating. One French philosopher said, I think, therefore I am. I think this is the foundation of a Western civilization. But one the master asked, if I don't think, who am I? If all our thinking mind disappears and we are very deeply absorbed in meditation, when our just a primer awareness is revealed, There is no distinction, I and you. So, in that situation, who am I? You have heard the well-known koan, the spiritual question. Before my parents were born, what is my original faith? So, in order to attain the true wisdom or prajna, our innate wisdom, it may start from our thinking mind. At first, we can study it, contemplate on that. But in order to see into the ultimate reality, from a certain stage, our thinking mind should disappear. Do you know what prajna, Sanskrit, literally means? Pra, just like English, pra means before or direct. Jnana in Pali or Sanskrit means knowledge or wisdom. Our true nature, original mind is the RAM before our thoughts arise. So with our thinking mind, we cannot see into that reality. Just like our eye cannot see the eye itself. This is a very significant thing. Moses was raised in an Egyptian palace. He was born a highly educated person. But at the age of 40, he happened to kill one Egyptian who abused the Jewish slave. So he had no choice to flee out of Egypt to avoid death penalty. That was the law at that time. So he fled to Midian, a desert country south of Judah. He met God face to face, according to the Bible, from the burning bush. At the age of 80, when Moses was intelligent, highly educated, he could not meet God. But when he lack of all his knowledge and wisdom, when he become a person with pure simplicity and innocence, he could eventually encounter God. Particularly in the Zen tradition, masters created some skillful means, like koan, spiritual question. What's the sound of one hand clapping, something like that. To see into the reality. At first, we can study it, contemplate it, but the nature of the koan is it defies our thinking mind. With our reason or thinking mind, how can we understand what is the sound of one hand clapping, or what is the original face before our parents were born? So when the practitioner's mind becomes calm and focused, there are lots of spiritual questions arise. But, or when our mind becomes more empowered and strengthened, then we can go very deep in the spiritual question. And in Zen tradition, they say, 일의 지하, 만의 적자. That literally means all spiritual questions merge into one and disappear under one greater question. That one greater question is, who am I? What is this? We call them mind or consciousness. But what is that really? Even though a fish take the bait, at that moment we needed to strike the fish in order to hook the fish. So even though spiritual questions arise, without our mind become empowered and strengthened, we cannot go very deep in that question. So that's why meditation is very important and cannot be separated from the enlightenment. These days, people have lots of knowledge in the stock market, cryptocurrency, and the movie, etc. That may be necessary depending on your occupation, but whatever you do for a living, there is one thing Buddha said that we needed all show interest and investigate. That is the question of who we really are. It's not the conceptual or metaphysical thing. When we realize our true self, then we can sever the root of suffering. That's why the first passage of the Heart Sutra says, when Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, the five aggregates are empty, he realized the reality of our true selves. He became free from all suffering and distress. So the Won Buddhism canon says, if we continue for a long, long time, ore, long, another translation, for a lengthy period of time, with the work of inquiry into human affairs and the universal principles, we will generate the power of wisdom. Even though you have a lot of knowledge in medicine or psychology, I don't think it helps to break your bad habits or let go of your attachment, for example. But this canon says, not wisdom, the power of wisdom. The power of wisdom. When we attain the prajna, that true innate wisdom, it has the power to diminish our attachment, to break our bad habits, etc. So think about the tombstone. When it's polished again and again, then it looks like a mirror eventually. Just like the more we contemplate the koan or whatever spiritual question we have, that inner light will dispel the darkness of our ignorance as well as our suffering or dissatisfaction in our life. So let's continue to practice meditation and koan study. Thank you.